Hi everyone, ever wondered how to track every change in a DynamoDB table in near real time? In this video, I'll show how DynamoDB Streams, Lambda and CloudWatch Logs work together to log every insert, update and delete automatically. Now let's look into this diagram. Here in the diagram, we can see we have an app, client, DynamoDB, DynamoDB Stream, Lambda and CloudWatch Logs. In our DynamoDB table, we can perform operations like put item, update item, and delete item. For this demo, we will enable streams for our DynamoDB table. Streams are enabled on this table with new and old images, so we get both before and after states. For every insert, update, or delete in DynamoDB, the service creates a change records and puts it into the DynamoDB stream. Each change record in DynamoDB Stream triggers a Lambda function automatically with event records. These are the events that Lambda processes. This Lambda function for our demo will work as an audit logger function. So it reads change record from the DynamoDB Stream and logs them to the CloudWatch Logs. So Lambda writes each change it processes to CloudWatch Logs, so we have a near real-time audit trail. Finally, we have these CloudWatch Logs, which acts as an audit trail for our demo. For this demo to work, we need an IAM policy called AWS Lambda DynamoDB execution role, which helps in stream reading and logging, and this role is assumed by our Lambda function. Now let's jump into the AWS console and see it in action step by step. Now that we are in the AWS console, let's open DynamoDB. In this DynamoDB console, let's click Create Table. Let's give this table a name. For partition key, let's give it a name of user ID. Scroll to the bottom and click Create Table. You can see we have successfully created a table name users and it has a status of active. Now let's click this table name called users. Under our table name called users, we can see we have multiple tabs. So let's click exports and streams tab to enable streaming for our DynamoDB table. Scroll down, here we see you have DynamoDB stream details, which is currently off. Let's click turn on for DynamoDB stream details. For our view type, as per our diagram, we have new and old images. So let's select this view type as new and old images. What it does is it gives both the new and old images of our changed item. So let's click turn on stream. You see this message successfully turned on streaming to DynamoDB stream. Now let's create an IAM role for our Lambda function. First, let's look into the diagram. So what we're trying to do is now we are trying to create an IAM role with the policy which can be assumed by a Lambda function. Now let's go back to our console and let's open IAM. In this IAM under access management, let's click roles. Now let's click create role. For trusted entity type, let's select AWS service, and for use case, let's open this drop down and select Lambda. Now let's click next. For permissions policy, let's select our policy called AWS Lambda DynamoDB execution role. So let's select this checkbox and click this plus icon. Here you can see we have permissions for our streams and also a permission for our log group. So let's scroll down and click next. Let's give this role a name. Scroll down and click create role. We can see that we have successfully created a role called DDB Stream Audit Logger role. Now let's open Lambda. From this AWS Lambda console, click create a function. Let's give this function a name. For runtime, let's select Node.js. Let's open this change default execution role and select use an existing role. Under this existing role, Let's open this drop-down and select our newly created role for our Lambda function. It's called DDB Stream Audit Logger role. Now let's click Create Function. Now we can see we have successfully created a function called DDB Stream Audit Logger. Under this function overview, let's click Add Trigger. Under Trigger Configuration, let's click this Select a Source drop-down and select DynamoDB as our trigger. Let's select our DynamoDB table called Users. For event pollers, check this Activate Trigger. Now scroll to the bottom and let's click Add. Now we have successfully added our DynamoDB table called Users as a trigger for our Lambda function called DDB Stream Audit Logger. Now let's move to the Code tab. So let's click this Code tab. Under index.mjs, let's delete this default code and write a new code. Here we create our function called handler, which loops through every record, and for every record it will print the event name, and it also checks for the existence of old image and new image, and if it finds old image or new image, it will console log, which will create a log record in CloudWatch Logs. So now let's click Deploy. We can see a successful message showing that the function update was successful. So let's move to our DynamoDB table. Under this users table, let's click Explore Table Items. Now let's click Create Item. Let's give this user ID a value of 1. Let's click this Add New Attribute, select String, give this attribute a name and value. Again, let's add another attribute by clicking Add New Attribute, select String. Let's give this attribute name as plan. For value, let's give it a value of free. Now let's click Create Item. We see we have a message that says the item has been saved successfully. Scrolling to the bottom, we can also see it from this table view that we have created a user with ID 1, with name Resum, and with plan free. Now let's move back to our AWS console and let's open CloudWatch. Under Logs, let's click Log Management. Here we can see we have a log group that was created by Lambda called DDB Stream Audit Logger. So let's open this log group. Here under log stream, we can see we have a single log stream. So let's open this log stream. You can see as we have created an item in DynamoDB, it has been logged as event name of insert, and for our new image, we got name as Resum, plan as free, and user ID as 1. Now let's move back to our DynamoDB table and let's change our plan from free to pro and click save. Now let's move back to our CloudWatch Logs and refresh this page. You can see we got event name of modify and old image of name Resum, plan free, user ID 1, and a new image of name Resum, plan pro, and user ID as 1. So we have successfully recorded our modify operation from our DynamoDB table. Now let's move back to DynamoDB table. Let's select this record and under action, let's click delete items. Click delete. Again, let's move back to our CloudWatch Logs. Let's refresh this page. For this log event, scrolling down, we can see we have successfully logged our event name called remove, where our old image was name Resum, plan pro, and user ID as 1. And there you have it. Every change in our DynamoDB table now flows through the stream, triggers Lambda, and gets logged automatically in CloudWatch. Audit logging made simple and serverless. That's it for today's demo. If you found it helpful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more AWS tutorials. Thanks for watching.